what that is? Discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Fucking do this? Then do it. Do it 100%, because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
You gotta be a champion to become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success. Hey, and welcome to episode 3 of the Coach's Show. I'm Coach Mike Bianca, joined with my friend Ryan Gray, and we've got a pretty exciting show for you tonight. Lots of good information coming your way, straight from the horse's mouth himself. Tom Cole will be on the show tonight. Of course, we'll have our correspondent Haley Leva talking about the WNXL, and coach, owner of the newest professional team, Paintball Fit, Casey Harris, is going to be on the show tonight.
Yeah, we got a big one, but I don't think Casey's the owner of the team. He's just the coach.
He's just the coach.
Yeah, but he's a great coach. So excited to kind of dig into their historic season and talk about what his plans are going to look like for the offseason. So, let's jump right in. Let's bring Haley in and talk about the WNXL.
Welcome, Haley.
Hi, how are y'all?
Doing very well.
Good.
Thank you. You ready for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I'm supposed to be on Thanksgiving break right now, but I still have a ton of homework. So,
well, best of luck with that. So,
thank you. And
what do you got for us?
So far, like finishing Cup, Dallas Vibe took first place, and that was kind of a little bit of a surprise, I would say, because they played really well at Cup, and I think they surprised a lot of people because they had a 5th and a 6th place finish at the other events this year. So Vibe coming in to take the win. They didn't take the series because of the 5th and 6th place finishes, but the Cheetahs ended up taking 2nd. So then that put them as the series champions, and then below that was Destiny and Heroines. Speaking of
really quick, do you know who was the MVP for Vibe at the tournament?
So their overall MVP was JC, and then their move of the finals, I believe, was Leslie Cluse, and then they had another finals MVP, which was Raylan Burns.
Raylan, and you know where she's from?
She's from where you are, right?
She's from Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma.
Yeah,
Okay.
plays at Avid. I just had to throw that in because she's a hometown girl.
Yeah, they all played super well. I think they like AC Ball has I say AC as in AC Dallas from a long time ago, but like Paintball Fit now, they have a certain type of play that they do, and it's across, like they teach everyone that. And whenever we play Vibe, I'm like, they're gonna play, I say AC Ball, but it's more Paintball Fit, Paintball, which is like a certain style of play that they have, most of their teams have across the board. And I think it worked obviously worked very well for them for this event, but they all played really well.
We will have to ask Casey about that.
Yes. Yeah. For sure. I'm sure he knows. Other than that, there's going to be a new team for sure in the WNXL next year, because the team that I played on, which is Destiny, is looking to sell the pro spot. It hasn't been purchased by anybody quite yet, but there won't be Destiny in the WNXL. So that's 9 players now who are going to be going to other places. I know some of my teammates probably already have arrangements made. Me personally, I don't, and I don't want to decide anything anytime soon. Just kind of trying to finish school real quick and then figure that out for next year. But so that's 9 people who are going to be on new teams for next season. And also, Destiny, which is crazy because Destiny's been a women's team that's been around forever. But Destiny will still be around in other divisions, just not in the WNXL.
So how did the women from Europe play?
They played really good. Like the only teams that we played was Belladonna's and Karma, and I would say both teams had different playing styles for sure, because Karma, they were more of an aggressive team, and they were like kind of like shoving it down your throat kind of paintball. Like they would just run and very aggressive. They weren't really like shooters as much. And then also whenever we played the Belladonnas, it triggered something that we didn't all think about, was that in Europe they have the paint limit. And so whenever we played them the first time, they weren't carrying as many pods, and we didn't use that to our advantage until later on whenever we realized, oh wait, they only have like 4 pods on their back, which they could obviously have more here, but I think they're just used to doing it the other way. And so they played like Belladonna's beat us Destiny in the prelims, and they put up like, they were really good shooters. They were shooting at least 2 people off the break almost every point. Like they were, I mean, we didn't know what to expect, but they were very good. And then we ended up playing them again on Sunday, and we beat them, but we kind of like had watched film and things like that to kind of figure out their game. And they only did have 6 people on the roster as well. So they were definitely getting tired because we played a lot of points. So, but and
it was hot.
Yeah. Oh, it was very warm for sure. So they played really well though. We didn't get to play Dracana, but I know they were another really good team that definitely put up some good matches as well.
Good. Yeah. So I think that's a really common thing when the European teams come over. They play at such a different tempo over there because they have less pods. So they really get quickly into the 50s, and it's almost like the game begins once they're all in the 50s. They like, in America, players will hold a shot or hold a zone for 8 to 12 seconds. There, it's like 2 to 3 seconds, and then they're gone, and then they're gone, and then they're gone. And, they kind of get to the boxes or get to the 50s and get to the spaces they want to be, and then they kind of start communicating. It's a little bit of a weird thing, but it's working, right? All the European teams, for the most part, that came over did well. I mean, even we talked last week, even the Joy Division team who struggled a little bit on day one, but then made some changes, came back and played better. They still didn't win a match, but it's way better than the teams that came in last year, right? If you look at the difference between the 2022 teams that came in and the 2023 teams that came in, it's night and day. It's night and day. And don't tell Tom this, but it could be because they took away all the US pros, and now all those Europeans are getting opportunities. They're getting a lot more time on the field, but I'm not going to tell him he's right.
No, that's a smart move. I do have.
I'm not going to tell him he's right.
I have a question for you, Ryan. You've spent some time in Europe and you've coached some European teams, and you've competed over there. With the limited paint, do you think, whether it's in the WNXL or the NXL itself, MLPB, do you think I would think that the gunfighting, one thing I've noticed whenever I've played European teams, the gunfighting's not there. Although I've noticed the gunfighting has vastly improved lately. Do you think because there's an emphasis now, because of the limited paint, that it's starting to realize, hey, we need to make every ball count?
I mean, absolutely. If you look at the way the Tauntauns play, and really the way Verse played as well, it was very heads up. They want to play you one-on-one, right? And they're incredibly patient with their shot. They will wait outside of the Dorito. If I'm heads up in a Dorito, they'll wait heads up till I come back, and they don't miss. So I don't know that their gunfighting ability is less than what it used to be. In fact, I think quite the opposite. I think because of the limited paint, they are really good with their guns, and they're great off the break.
Right.
So
I used to make those comments whenever I played European teams. I felt it was advantageous to us because they always wanted to fight what was in front of them. They didn't play 3-dimensionally; they played 2-dimensionally.
Right.
You definitely see how they have turned that into a strength.
For sure. Well, let's bring Tom in. We can ask him a few questions about the WNXL in Europe. Hey, Tom.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so first, I think Haley has questions about the WNXL and some things for 2024, so she'll kind of kick us off.
Always scary. Go ahead.
So as myself, and I'm sure a lot of the other women in the WNXL are wondering, so we've had 3 events this last year. We had 3 events in the inaugural year. And so from what I have heard, there's also going to be 3 events in 2024. So is it a decision kind of based off of attendance of the women, or is it like based off of the franchise owners deciding to only have 3 events, or kind of like what's the reasoning behind not doing all 5?
That's a good question. I think in the beginning we made the decision just for financial reasons. We are trying to keep the teams healthy and not make them stretch themselves too thin. It's been my experience that people tend to overpromise and underdeliver, including their own abilities to be able to play that many events. And everybody always wants 5 events, whether that's Europe or the ICPL or the NXL, right? And sometimes it's financially challenging. And I know the owners of the WNXL aren't dying to spend another, whatever it costs to run a team at an event. So we're trying to keep it healthy. We don't need to have as many events. And I do see that seems to be the rallying cry on every one of our posts is like more WNXL. And we would love to have more. I just want to make sure the teams are really healthy. Like we're stretching the limits of how many female players there are in the planet. They're almost all playing in the WNXL. So we want to make sure that stays healthy and we don't end up with a bunch of people having to drop out for financial reasons.
Right. For sure. That's kind of what I figured, because it is hard to travel to 5 times in a year.
And I also think initially, the players that I talked to the first year, there was a lot more debate going on in the first year about how we were going to handle stuff. A lot of the players, I think, were looking at the WNXL as their second team and not their primary team. So they wanted to be able to continue to play with whatever club team they were with, and club team meaning, could be Paintball Fit or whoever they were playing for at the time. They still wanted to be able to give that team some time. Now I think it's morphed a little bit. I think the WNXL is being taken pretty seriously by all parties. So, and maybe we will see more events. And this year was unfortunate that we had such a long break, I believe. And that was the WNXL owners that decided that. In my world, we would have done, the middle event would have been a WNXL event. I don't like those long stretches. Plus the middle event's the longest day of the year. So we have a lot of time, extra time. Chicago is our worst location as far as time's concerned. So, well, World Cup being the absolute worst, but Chicago being the second worst. So,
for sure.
But good question.
I think that's pretty much all I got with the WNXL question. That was it does make sense, because in the beginning, as you said, a lot of the girls also had other teams that we were playing on, including myself. And so it allowed us to do both, with playing the WNXL and playing with our teams like locally. And some of the girls, even on the team that I played on, were playing D2 and playing D3 and playing all the other divisions while also playing in the WNXL. But now that the girls are starting to take it more seriously, I think that's why people are asking to have more events.
And it's interesting. It's something I had to learn the hard way through the NXL is there's really 3 different kind of people that have a vested interest in what we're doing. So we used to do the meetings and discuss, what the future was. And like, let's just say we had the pro teams in there, right? And so if I talk to Ryan and Mike about what the needs are of the team, that's completely different than what the players want. And that may also be different from what the owners want. So we spent a lot of time talking to the coaches and probably not enough time talking to the actual players about what they want. And so that's something we're trying to change. But yeah, the coaches probably appreciate it because they're the ones that, we talk to all the time. But yeah, the coaches and the owners are the ones we talk to the most, but the players also need to be heard about what they're looking for out of everything.
Of course.
So, yeah. And in the end, we're just a custodian, right? We do whatever you guys want. You guys want 20-minute games at 18 balls a second. I mean, that's what you get. You know what I mean? As long as that's what everybody wants, with some discretion there.
For sure.
Yeah, don't do that.
Boy, did you just open a can of worms with that?
Yeah, I should never even said that, but
that was
Haley,
all time.
Haley, thank you so much. We will see you next week. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Bye, y'all too.
Study hard.
Oh,
Bye, thank you.
Okay, let's jump into some other topics here. So you and I talked a little bit at World Cup. One of the discussions I had with you was talking about the why, right? Getting the players to buy in and understand the direction we're going so that they can help push, right? I think a lot of times what happens is we as an industry release information without any story, right? I'll give a really simple example. Sup Air throws out the new bunker kit expansion in a layout that looks nothing like what an actual paintball field that Jason designs is going to look like. And what does the industry do? All the knuckleheads start going, oh my God, we can't play that. There's 2 snakes on one side. There's a cake in the back center. It's never going to look like that. And so with a little bit of narrative and then put a layout out would have made a lot more sense. But, Sup Air did their own thing and that's okay. So what direction are you trying to push us to, and how can we help?
That was a lot there.
I know.
Well, let's start with the beginning. So we as an industry are horrible at that, right? That we've always been bad at this. And part of the reason is because a lot of the people in the previous days running the leagues were also running their own businesses. So they were almost doing the leagues as a side project just to keep them alive. But their primary goal was their business, whether that be the Gardners or Dave Youngblood or Gino. I mean, everybody's had it. Richmond, everybody's had a hand in the leagues at some point in time. And so the leagues were always kind of like an emergency crisis meeting on what we're going to do next year. And they were kind of throwing that out. And to be honest, a lot of these meetings were in January. You know what I mean? So in January, you got Dave pitching, changing the field sizes because he think it's affecting the older player or whatever, and all of the stuff that was put out was genuinely concerned about the sport. But you can't make those decisions in January for March. You know what I mean? It's without right. You can, but you're going to get, the people are going to be upset. People don't like change. It takes them a little while to digest anything that we're pitching. And like a lot of the stuff that I've learned the hard way, right? Like, you pitch this stuff and I talk about it and then, sometimes it comes to fruition, but people are always mad when we first start pitching stuff. And then we made the mistake, because this is all I do is run the league. We've been concentrating so much on growing and we keep adding new stuff that we're always behind the eight ball as far as what we're doing. Like we're still rushing and panicking over here, even though this is all we do, because we started in 2015 and since then we've added the WNXL, the ICPL, the European League, the Major League Paintball ID system. And we keep doing new stuff and we keep pushing this. And sometimes I kick myself for doing something new without trying to make sure our base is more stable. So, and that's kind of one of the things we're doing this year is revisiting our base and going back to our core to kind of make us healthier.
Yeah, great.
That explains that.
It does. So that explains the communication piece. So what's the why? Where are we going? How do we get there?
There are so many whys, and I can't even say I have the answers to all the whys. We have two big problems, three big problems, I guess. Let's go with the first one is the fact that I'm concerned that we're seeing less and less fields running tournament style play. And we've had this happen a couple times through a cycle, right? That Europe did it really bad for a little while where they basically were like parks outlawed people with their own guns. And then we had it in the late 90s happened the same thing in the United States, where a lot of the big parks were being preached to by some of the industry people saying, hey, the guys that own their guns aren't our core business. We need to do these rental groups, and that's really where to make the money. And I really noticed it in my local market. I ran a store and I also ran a team back in the day in Maryland. So I had Bad Company in Maryland. We had an amateur team in Maryland. And I noticed that we just ended up stealing more players from other teams and also just keeping our players around longer than we ever had. And we didn't have this new influx of people coming in to try and play paintball. And I equated that right back to the fact that all the fields in our area, like in one day, decided they weren't going to allow walk-ons anymore. So if you're not incentivizing people to go from rental to walk-on, you're definitely not letting them go to tournament. And this is back in the day when the fields could be used both ways, where you could run a rental field and then just let it, the tournament was basically the same thing as a rental field. So we play the Fort field as a tournament practice, as strange as that is. Today, we require a specialized field in order to have tournament play, which is stealing real estate away from potential rental customers. So we've seen a decline in fields that are running that type of operation. And in Europe, it is staggering. The numbers of fields that have stopped doing that. But in the United States, we also have this problem. And the rest of the world, as I call it, like the emerging markets, like Asia, Latin America, they're seeing it also, right? And so when we lose a tournament field, we lose the ability to convert someone up the ranks. So that to me is the glaring issue that we're facing right now. The second thing is that the field owners are not really incentivized to make that move from the rental guy to the tournament guy. And we're doing a study right now to try and figure out what the lifetime value of a player is, because we noticed during COVID, I personally noticed during COVID that the first people to come back were the hardcore players, right? So, and I throw this number out here, 3 million people played paintball last year, right? That's the number from the SGMA. Well, what percentage of that actually got converted into a paintball gun owner? And what percentage of those people ended up playing tournament paintball? that number is minuscule. If we were looking at conversion rates, people would just look at us like we've lost our minds. That's a horrible conversion rate, right? If you look at someone that plays golf or plays tennis, they go out with a group and they go play or whatever, you go play tennis with your friends, the odds of going out and buying tennis equipment are pretty high. Now they have a quick turnover rate as well. People go play tennis for a couple months and then they're gone, right? They just put that with the rest of their things in the garage. Whereas paintball people, typically when we get them, we have them forever. This crew on the show here is evident of that, right? We're lifers, right? And we have a lot of lifers, not just in tournament, but also in scenario and the rec players, right? They've been around forever. So once we got them, they're hooked, but we need to do a better job of converting them. And that goes all the way back to the field owner. We need to try and educate them and convince them that it's not necessarily, you're not losing that $70 box of paint for a guy that's only wants to pay $35. It's a guy that's going to pay $35 every weekend, and you don't have to advertise to him. I mean, I doubt most field owners are not doing an analysis of cost of acquisition of new customers and what it costs them to lose a guy and how much money they're saving to have a repeat customer every day, right? You don't tournament people. I mean, you can just look at our threads, right? Like if we don't release dates in time, people are on us about releasing dates, right? Because we have a customer that wants that information so that they can play paintball. We're not being forced to advertise. The NXL does not really have an advertising budget to recruit people to play. Whereas like a Tough Mudder or Spartan Race, they're being forced to constantly recruit new people. So that would be the second thing. And the third thing is we need to create fans. And one of the challenges that we have with that, once again, is our pro teams are not that sophisticated as far as their marketing and how they're handling stuff. We have a disconnect between the field owners and the high-end leagues, right? There's a complete disconnect there. And so we're trying to bridge that gap. And initially, I didn't think we were the people to try and solve that problem, the NXL group. But I went to the extravaganza probably 4 years ago, and we sat at one of those luncheons where the field owners, the store owners kind of grill the industry a little bit, and the industry was in the hot seat. And then I asked some questions, and I kind of explained, because the field owners were pretty hostile, I felt, towards the industry about like what they weren't doing more for them. And so I shot back kind of at both sides because I'm kind of in the middle. I don't really, I don't have a seat at either fight, And then someone was like, well, why aren't you representing us? And I'm like, because that's not my thing. I represent tournament players who are almost the direct opposite of what you guys are trying to do. But I realized at that point that we're probably the Switzerland of paintball. And I know not everyone's going to agree with that, but like my relationship with the industry and the field owners, we've grown up through time. And I believe there's some trust there from the industry towards the NXL. And I believe we can bring those field and store owners onto our side to kind of help educate them and bring them to a new level. Because I mean, running a paintball business on some level is easy, right? The field owners, they haven't had to really push. And as coaches, you guys know, if you took your team out every weekend and you just played walk-ons, they're going to get worse. They're not going to get better. They're going to pick up every bad habit in the world. And the good and the bad is people, when they play paintball, they have a good time. And they don't really look at all the stuff that's going wrong at their park. And so they just let it go. And I've done some videos and I never even published them because they were so horrible. But like, I went to work at some of these fields to build ICPL stuff. And I was just like, this place is a trash heap. Like, why would I have to go past trash to get to the park? And we're not, and people like us don't care that much, but a mom pulling in, like, there's no way, I always use the Camille test, right? I couldn't imagine Camille dropping off her girls at that field and saying, go have fun. She would have lost her mind. And I talked to the guy that was managing the field, and he was genuinely like, just didn't see it. And I was like, why is there a car door that I have to walk past to get onto the field? And he's like, it's a prop from a scenario we ran a month ago. And I'm like, it's not a prop. It's trash. To anyone other than you, it's trash. And so, and we've all had to grow and learn, right? I'm not saying, we have all the answers, but we believe we can bring those answers together and kind of help people learn and put them in a room where we can talk about it and learn from one another. So that's but we do need, and you asked where the help can come in, it's like the pro teams have to start engaging with their people more. We need to, and I mentioned this in the pre-show or whatever, but like, at this summit, we want to have the players meeting with someone that teaches them how to interact people on social media, right? You just can't say certain stuff on social media. And the NFL, I talked to a guy from the NFL, and they said that's one of their core things is that when you make it to the NFL, you get coaches that are teaching you just not how to play, but teaching you how to interact in this complicated social media world that we live in, where if you make one wrong comment, you can lose your entire career. And so we need to help educate those people. And I learned this, I go to a lot of these shows, and I don't think everybody knows how many shows I go to try and learn more about the sports industry and how everybody else does stuff. But I was sitting with a guy and I was kind of complaining about our industry, and they always give you, they tell you what they're doing and they give you some advice. And I'm always like, well, that's not going to work with our clientele because of how they think and all this stuff. And the one guy just, he was like, so are you a leader? And I'm like, yeah. He said, well, then lead. Stop complaining. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I took that to heart. So, we really do got to kind of keep trying to put our best foot forward. And we all, that's the team setting we all grew up in, right? Not all of us are always ready to give 100% every day, every time we show up. And your teammates and your coaches, they're the ones that push you to get that 100%. And so that's kind of what we need to do, is keep everybody in check. So if you see, and just an example, and even I've done this before, like I've seen someone getting roasted online wrongly, let's say, I believed wrongly, right? And I almost chimed in and said, hey, and I believe he was an opponent of mine. Won't even get into that, but I wanted to chime in and be like, hey, like he's doing his best. Let's cut this guy some slack. I don't see you doing anything to move the ball forward. All you're doing is trying to kick his ball away from him because you don't like how he's playing with it. And I literally let back and said, why? Because I write that, and now I'm just going to open myself up to attack. And but that's not the right answer, right? We need to kind of like steer that direction a little bit to make sure everybody stays on the same page, because we all, I've said this before, like you put a gun in our hand and we all become idiots, right? Like I play the POC now, right? I play that a couple times, and next thing you know, you end up in a shipping match between someone, you have a chirping match between somebody, and playing last man standing. So we have to have the people around us remind us of what we're doing.
So it sounds like what you're talking about is all encompassing into viewers, right? Like all of these things that you're talking about are being able to build some sort of viewership so that it makes us more marketable.
Correct. So I had a debate with a guy that just took lacrosse, one of the companies that just bought lacrosse as far as a TV rights person. And I was kind of, because I sat next to him for a weekend, I was kind of chirping him a little bit and be like, why lacrosse? Like no one plays lacrosse. Like why not paintball? And he said, because they have 11 million built-in fans that play it every year at college. So that's where I ended up with that 3 million number. So I went and did some research to see how many built-in fans we are going to have. And 3 million is not a bad number, but we need to connect those players to us. And whether that's the WNXL, the ICPL, or the NXL, we need to connect those players and let them even know that there is pro paintball. And that there's something to watch and someone to root for. And you get even more complicated, right? You need to have the stories, right? You need to have the stuff. Like I watched the 101 that Go Sports did during COVID, right? And Mark Johnson's playing. And so, of course, I'm rooting for Mark Johnson because he's old, right? That was all I needed of the story. He's older than the other guy. I'm going to root for the old guy, right? Yeah. And so it's that simple. So we need to do a better job in a lot of places, right? And it's a lot to overcome, but we just got to keep plugging away at it and doing what we can.
Yeah. So it sounds like the why is viewers, because we need them in order to get to the place we want to go, which the place we want to go is being able to get this thing out to the market in a meaningful way so that it can be consumed in the way we need it to be consumed.
Correct.
Yeah. So the why is viewers. We need to get to the viewers, and how we do that is a multi-channel process, and how we can help is sorry, I was about to throw a big word there. Do your part. Do your part. So if you are a professional paintball team owner, do your part. Go to the local events, get some sort of QR code or a dot card where you can slap it against somebody's phone and automatically your social media stuff pops up with a tag for Go Sports or some sort of YouTube channel where they can consume some paintball media. Yes?
Yeah, I agree.
And then as far as the field owners are concerned, the tough part for tournament paintball players is the fields they play at have tournament fields. right? So they're already at the place that has a tournament field, or they wouldn't be playing tournaments. So that's going to be kind of out of our hands. But on our end, there's I guess some other things we could do. Yeah.
Yeah, and not to give our hands too much, but in 2025, we plan on launching I'm definitely going to get grief for this one. But in 2025, we want to launch like a grassroots tournament series. We tried it once with the 2v2, and we learned from that, right? And now I think we're prepared to do something at a global level that, we say tournament field, we mean airball. But for many years, tournament field didn't mean airball, right? So, and it is much easier. We need to have a format in a league that a guy anywhere can play, and a guy with some land can say, hey, I want to open up this park. There was a big trend for a while to try and make the park super nice and have all these barrier to entries to the other parks, right? But when paintball was growing at its most rapid, almost every person with a woodlot was throwing up a paintball field. And that we had explosive growth in those eras. So I'm not expecting everybody to be perfect. And by no means are each of these tournaments going to be perfect, but people playing competitiveness, whatever the format is, against one another is going to help. And we just need to kind of really help the fields do the marketing and help them do the managing the events and make it turnkey for them to run events so that they can make money. Because in the end, that's what it comes down to. If the field owner can make money doing something, he's going to be incentivized to do it.
Sure. Yeah. So you opened up kind of a door. So we did this 7-3 kind of tester at World Cup. I think the consensus was the format was a little goofy, and the players didn't like kind of hanging around. But one of the things it did bring was it brought a lot of people to the event. Brought a lot of people the day before the tournament, and they hung around a lot longer. The vendors seemed like they were busy all day that day, which normally I think that wouldn't be as much consumers as it would be players going in to, exchange arm pads and, get guns worked on and those kind of things. I saw a lot of commerce happening that day. Can we expect to see more of those kind of one-off things in 2024 at some events?
Yeah, in a perfect world, we would be testing stuff like that occasionally. And even in a more perfect world, we would end up with a I'm going to call it a blue collar format, but another format that's a little more affordable, that we would have a pro division that played. I mean, in the glory days, and we always use that term, but in the heyday of 10-man paintball, the World Cup was really 2 tournaments in one.
Sure.
You came in and you played 5-man, and then you played 10-man, which not only does it give you 2 chances to win, it gives you 2 chances to play, and it just makes all those costs. Because in reality, what you spend to go play a tournament, even in NXL, which I know we're on the expensive side, most of the money a team spends is not at the paintball field. It's getting there. So by adding another tournament in that time frame, it really does it. It helps defer some of that cost. And it's the experience I had as a kid. I went to the Masters when I was a kid, and we played for 5 days straight. And I thought that was my job. I was so sad to have to go back to work, and it kind of drove me to want to do that for the rest of my life. So I think that's a good thing, to occasionally to have a little bit longer of an event that gives you twice the chance to win. And if you look at that format, which it had a lot of flaws, I'm by no means defending my format there. But it, you had 2 new teams do well, right? You had 2 teams from New York, right? The Bears and New York Extreme. New York Extreme's never won a pro event. And we put some money in their pocket, hopefully reinvigorated them to keep trying to play. And maybe they burst their bubble playing that and not doing well in the X Ball, but I think overall was a good experience. And I heard great things from the trade show, including our booth and our sales. Everything was good.
I heard also something about possibility for a coaches clinic at a couple of events possibly next year.
Yeah, we're dying for some coaches clinics. We got a bunch of coaches right here to incentivize to do it.
I heard a rumor that
coaches.
I heard there might be one in Texas, maybe.
Maybe one in Texas. I want one in Europe. I want one in Europe. I think I hear people debating about the difference between European players and American players, and I think the biggest difference isn't the player. I think the biggest difference is the coach. I think they don't have a good comprehension of the time management over there. Maybe that's because of the limited paint for so long. They used to play M500, which was basically like fix bayonets on the break and hope it works out. So, you watch the American teams, they play the pocket, they play a super low risk paintball game, at least the ones that are winning, right? I mean, obviously some of the teams are a little more fixed bayonetish, but you play that pocket and you try not to mess up kind of deal. team that makes the least amount of mistakes is going to win this tournament. I think they call it damage ball now. I think that's part of the thing, damage ball. And Joey's right? Damage ball means winning ball. I saw his little interview. I thought it was pretty good. In the end, it's winning, right?
Totally.
We need to incentivize people to play more aggressive, but as long as if playing more defensive wins you tournaments, people are always going to play more defensive.
But see, I think that's Joey and I's argument. I'm going to take us on a tangent just for a moment. Joey and I have had this conversation several times, Tom. And Ryan, you've heard me say this. It's not that we're necessarily playing defensive. It's that we're playing the field the way we think it needs to be played in order to lead to success. So and sometimes that means taking ground. Sometimes that means pocket. Sometimes it depends on the layout. It depends on what tools you have in the toolbox. So as Joey and I say it, and as you put it, it's damage ball, but it's playing a winning game as opposed to defensive. I just wanted to get that out.
So let's talk about the ICPL. I think you've got some news for us. Let me bring up share something with everyone, and then we'll bring Casey in.
The schedule's been released, hasn't it, Tom?
I don't know if it's actually
been. It hasn't, but by the time people see this show, it will certainly be on our Facebook page and our social media.
It is supposed to be released this week before Thanksgiving.
Yep.
So that is the plan.
So if it's how often have you ever released schedules this early? Has this ever happened before?
I don't know if it's ever happened. There's a chance that maybe back in the very early days, someone might have released a schedule, but I feel like most decisions on schedule were made after January.
Right.
In the past. We've obviously been ramping that up to try and get it out as early as possible, not just for our customers, but also for the whole industry's waiting on our dates.
Right.
So you're a bold tournament series that releases your date before the NXL, right? And you find out you've put it on World Cup or something, right? So you got to be careful doing that. So we try and get that as early as possible, just so we can free everybody up to release their dates and move forward. So, and yeah, the ICPL, the ICPL's got some easier dates because we have a lot more flexibility in the parks, as opposed to the NXL and the NXL Europe, because there we're typically going to a bigger venue that has other obligations other than us. But yeah, I think it's great that we have these dates out. Obviously, we're the ones getting them out, so I'm always going to think it's great. But I think it's important to have the dates out early. People can get vacation time and real life stuff.
Yeah. So walk us through the schedule here. What are we looking at?
So we have really three styles of stuff here. So we have the affiliate events that we're running. And so they are actually run by the park owner. And like I said before, we're trying to find ways for these park owners to make money and incentivize them to do this stuff. And Classic Paintball is one of the easiest ways because a lot of the park owners actually played during the Classic era, Rennick being the perfect example, right? So he's intimately knowledgeable about what it takes to build a good Classic field and all that kind of stuff. Even though everybody has opinions on what is a good Classic field, these old people do know how to do this, and some of these field owners are from those days. And so these events are ran by the field owner. They generate all the revenue off of it. We just give seed points for it, so that we can break up the regions and kind of allow people to play without traveling, but also to kind of try to help these park owners. So that is worth 50 points. So if you win one of these, and we will be adding more as they go, if you win one of these, you would get 50 points. And then we have what we call our major, which is our event that we run, and we are doing that at GG this year. I think he's been doing amazing work there with the park. I think, parks are across the country are going to start seeing upgrades because as the market gets bigger and people are driving people to do a better job, I think we're going to see more on that. And we really want to incentivize those parks and go to them with our events and kind of help raise their level and help them take it to the next level. And then in truly weird format, which everybody in paintball is probably going to hate, but we are moving our championship to 2025 in January and February in Florida. So, and one of the big reasons for this is so that we can have the whole world participate in the World Championship. So under the current system, teams playing in Europe or Latin America or Asia or whatever, they would have a hard time coming over to our championship because our championship is September. Also, we really, we have World Cup coming up right after that event, and having like a marquee ICPL event right before World Cup is kind of taking the eye off the real ball there. So by moving this to the down season, hopefully it'll be a good little spark for the industry and give the teams time really to concentrate on that.
It's a great idea. So when you talk about the World Cup and the European teams coming over, does that mean there's going to be more ICPL expansion into Europe?
So we are. So we work with Nicky Truder in England. He's been doing a great job over there trying to get classic paintball going. So he is going to be our UK event. And at the NXL events, both of our venues in Europe this year have classic fields to them. So they're not airball. So we have Lisbon and we have Paris, or Drew, which I call Paris, but it's nowhere near
Drew.
Paris. Drew.
Yeah.
So both of them have pretty neat concept fields to play classic paintball on. And we've had some interest of the 10-man teams playing those events. So an American team can go over there and play also and earn those open points. So the open points can be played in Europe or any of these affiliate events that we have. And the European teams will also have their own series, with Paris being the European Championships. And then they will then have an opportunity to come and play the ICPL in Florida for the World Championship.
That's fantastic.
Incredible.
So,
yeah, very cool changes.
I mean, I think it's neat. I think the classic thing has been great. There's a lot of people playing that weren't playing before. And a lot of people I feel are staying longer. And it also, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel it rejuvenated some of these pro guys getting to go play for fun occasionally and play with their friends and not be so worried about all the pressure that comes with being a pro player in this day and age.
Yeah, I mean, look at Todd Adamson. Like, he's kind of back in full force now. Came in kind of getting back into the classic paintball and then started coaching the Killers, and now, potentially going to buy into the pro league. We'll see where that ends up. But
he has a WNXL team.
He has a WNXL team. Yeah. And he puts in a team in every classic form. I think they play 7-man, they play 10-man, they play everything they can play with mechanical guns.
He is unbelievable with that, for sure.
Yeah. And they win everything, I think,
they win
too.
A lot. They win a lot.
I got a buddy I grew up with playing paintball back in literally the mid 90s who lives down there and plays with him. And he loves it. They just geek out about it. Tom, thank you.
I think the classic thing is super neat. So
thank you for your time. We got to move on to Casey. I'm going to bring Casey on so you can kind of rap with him a little bit if you want to.
Good deal.
Yo, Casey.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Welcome.
Hey, how are you doing?
Great. Hey, congratulations again. Big. I think since Trauma did something very similar way back when, I don't know that any other team's done what you guys have just done, and huge feat.
It was pretty surreal. It's pretty.
I'm sure. You got anything you want to ask Tom about, since you're the freshman team coming in? You got anything you want to yell at him about before you get there, or ask him a question?
No, we do a lot of yelling beforehand. Discussions over there. No, I tell you, no one's ever done it before, placing the same team every time in the finals.
No, yeah, 100%.
That is a brutal situation there. A brutal situation. No, I have high hopes for the team. I actually prefer the model. I'm gonna get in trouble again. I prefer the I call it the Hurricane model now, right? But it's the model of a lot of people that really want to play paintball and get better at it and play as a group of friends. I mean, it's really the Dynasty model in the beginning, right? Dynasty was a group of friends that all played. The Trauma model, to the same thing, right? Like, I believe having people practicing at a home field and putting the time in and grinding it out builds character and makes great teams. And I don't like the AC Diesel style as much of let's do some headhunting and pick up some people and kind of go that way. This is where I get the grief, right? But I prefer that team mentality instead of just the big money ball type situation. So I have high hopes. I got you guys in the top 10 is my prediction for next year. I don't want to be mean, but I predict top 10.
Well,
That's not mean.
That's
that's not mean. That's really nice.
That is incredibly nice.
Well, I don't think it's nice. I think they've earned it. I don't give gifts. You know what I mean? I think they're going to play well. I think they're going to surprise some people. And I think some teams that have been living on just a name and some stuff and no good work ethic are going to learn a lesson. So, and I hope they take that lesson to heart and come out better next year. So we'll see. Obviously, there's going to be a huge shakeup as soon as people start stealing people. We'll see what goes on. But like I said, I really appreciate the Hurricane Ball. I'll keep calling it till you guys end up ranked ahead of them.
Well,
So,
now I don't like that very much, but
keep up the good work. I don't know if they'll ever be ranked ahead of you. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to give it to them until they've earned it.
well,
you know,
I do want to add something to this, Casey and Tom, and you may not know this. I'm sure Casey's certainly aware of this, but what's more impressive than the fact that you won all 5 events and you faced the same opponent in the finals all 5 events is I think a lot of people are looking past exactly how you did it. People don't understand exactly what you've done, and let me explain. Event 1, you had, for every point that was hung on you, you hung 4 more on your opponent. You had an 80% win ratio in event 1. You increased that to an 82% win ratio at event 2, right? Here's what's fascinating. You go to event 3 and you drop 1 game in the prelims, right? I believe you dropped that game to Royal Sea Dogs. And then you met them in the semifinals and you beat them. They beat you 4-1. You come back, meet them in the semifinals, beat them 4-1, and then go on to win the event. So now you're 3 events in. You've got an 80%, probably at that point, I think you're probably, you're above 80% win ratio on your scores, right? You're not losing any matches except 1. You're 3 events in, you've lost 1 match. Now you go to event 4. This is where things got a little tough, right? That 80% dropped to 69% win ratio, still a high positive win ratio. But what's incredible is, I mean, you didn't lose any matches there again. So now you've gone through 4 events, you've won 4 events, and you've dropped 1 match. Then we get to World Cup, right? You're automatically into the quarters. In the prelims, when you're doing the seeding, you lose 1 match to the newbies, right? They get knocked out. You come back and you just put it on Blast Camp for a stamp, a single stamp right there to say, no, this is how it should be. So you lost 2 matches the entire season. You averaged about 79% win ratio. And here's another thing. Out of the 35 matches you played, Casey, you mercied 15 of those teams.
Wow.
Those are incredible stats. I'm sorry, I'm a stat guy, Tom.
No.
Those are incredible, incredible stats.
I'll give you my stat with them. Don't piss them off because they seem to come back really mad and play really good. So the whole time I'm be playing them, I'd be saying, "Great game, guys! I don't know how we won that game. You guys are so much better than us." Yeah, I'm not kicking the hornet's nest over there.
I want to see him piss because I want to see more
extra
cold
danger
doing this.
comes out.
That's right.
It is
good for the
on.
entertainment for sure, right?
It is, no, I'm here for the entertainment. That is for sure. We need more people or whatever. So,
Right.
Need more viewers.
Tom, thank you so much. We're gonna let you go so you can begin to pack. I know you got a fun trip ahead of you. Have a fantastic Thanksgiving and be safe in your travels.
Same to you guys. I appreciate it, guys. Keep up the good work.
Take care, Tom. Thanks. All right, Casey, we've got you all to ourselves now, and I'm sure Ryan's just as excited as I am to really delve into your your processes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your culture that is PB Fit. So I don't want to go too far into it. It's interesting to me because Tom made a comment. He says, "Don't piss them off. They get angry and they come back." And let's talk about that. Let's talk about the culture that is PB Fit. How would you define the culture that you try to create with your players?
I think it's the hunger, and the drive for each one of the players. They're each brothers. 5 of the guys live with each other. It's a very homegrown team. That atmosphere in general, I think, is what built to success more this year, right? Last year things happened, but this year, during the off season, they're like, "Hey, no, we're coming to win." There was no ifs, ands, and buts about it.
So you mentioned things happening last year. I'm pretty sure I know one of the things that happened that kind of fueled some of that. We're not leaving anything to chance kind of attitude.
Right.
Losing to Austin Notorious by 1 point the year before. You and I even talked after World Cup when you walked up and said, "Hey, congratulations." I'm like, "Thanks, man. That was a fun match." And you said, "No, on the series." Yeah. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I didn't even know because I thought you guys had already sewn it up, So I'm sure that kind of you can touch it, you can taste it, you can feel it, yet it's still so far away. You're not there. I'm sure that kind of created some energy for work ethic, right?
Right.
So talk about kind of, last season, off season, and then kind of what your plan is for this off season.
Well, I mean, like last year after all the guys kind of came together and, we decided like this is certain things we need to work on. And I mean, each person had a goal, like, and we all had a goal and, putting that much effort, they're pretty much, they're playing 60 points a week roughly. And then layout weekend, I mean, World Cup, this past World Cup, 137 points is what we practice. Most, I think, ever. But I mean, it was, and not just playing the points, but actually like diving down into how we think the layout should be played. And, I mean, a lot of people knocked us all year long, like, oh, you got two guys at home, one of them being Colt, this and that. But, like I told you, like, we shoot, I mean, that is one thing we're good at. We're shooting people off break, and until we have to adjust at that, now we have adjustments, but, we're going to shoot, we're going to have 5 guns up and, that's how we play.
137 points in preparation for Cup. Did that start on the Wednesday the layout dropped, or is that 3 days? That's spread out over what, 5 days?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, they have a field. I live 3 hours away from them, so normally I don't come in till I try to come in Thursday night, and I'll be with them Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and even Monday possibly. Depends on. We didn't practice Monday, but. They'll do Wednesday night ball, and then they practice Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And they have like the shut up guys. They have the D2 guys, and they'll fill to make sure they have 5 on 5, so 10 players. Yeah.
And you said Wednesday night ball, so PV Fit, they're famous for their lighted field, correct? So
yeah.
There's certainly advantageous when you can be on that field that often and that regularly. And if it doesn't work out for people's schedules, you can always do it in the evening. And having that sparring partner, that constant sparring partner, whether it doesn't matter what division they are, it really doesn't. The Canes, our first year, we were practicing against D3, D4 teams, as long as you're getting specific looks and you're using and leveraging those teams, right?
So other than the first event this year, our sparring partners only been our D2 and D3 squads. Diesel, we scrimmaged Diesel our first event, and then they've gone elsewhere since. And so it's only been because a lot of times I'm like, hey, what's our plans? And the problem is we always got to wait on the pro schedule and don't know what everybody else is doing because Fit is Diesel's home field too. Mm-hmm. And I'm like. So we've only practiced shut up and some of the D3 squads. So it works on closing. I mean, they're all solid groups. I mean, Fit, I think they made a post World Cup. I think over 8 teams podiumed. That comes out of the Fit paintball field. So.
And there's a lot of ways to leverage those teams. And one thing we did, and Ryan, you can hop in here. Something whenever we were practicing, we couldn't get anyone to come to us. We have no budget. We can't travel. Right. So we were having to work with like D4, D3 teams. And what I would do, one of the things I would do is I'd go to the other team and say, we're going to go here, 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 and here.
100%.
Right. And I want you to stop it. And here's how I suggest you stop it by doing this, 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 and this. And the other beauty of having those teams, just because they're a D2 team or a D3 team does not mean they don't know how to play paintball.
Oh,
they're just going to make a couple more mistakes or maybe not a read as quick. But if you can sit there, a lot of times they'll do things that a pro wouldn't do in their right mind, which makes you recognize holes and flaws and issues. So that processing speed, I said it last episode, that processing speed becomes very important, and they can poke holes in game plans. And that's what I like about practicing lower divisional teams. And it sounds like Shut Up, We're Trying, and your other divisional 3 teams are giving you that type of look.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, Shut Up's obviously a really good team. I mean, they just
They
took
got
second
second
in
in
the
the
series,
series.
right? Yeah, I mean,
They got some great fans too.
Oh yeah,
yeah, well, I do want to kind of Chanel, right? That's her name.
yeah.
Yeah, I do. I do want to kind of get into that here in a second, but so I have a benefit, right? Because I've been around you guys for a really long time and I'm pretty close. So I've seen kind of the work ethic. I've seen, the things the guys have done. I've talked to several of them about some of the decisions they made at the end of last season and the effort and energy they're putting in. I mean, those guys seem like it's not just that they're playing, when the layout's up, they're playing paintball Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, almost every single week.
Right.
So it's not just about the things that they're doing as a group. Individually, those guys are putting in just a tremendous amount of work. And obviously it shows when you can come out and shoot two guys off the break every point almost. I mean, I went back and statted some of your games and I was like, I'm just tired of writing circles on this page because you guys shoot so many people off the break. And it's if you do that in the pros, if you're able to continue to do what you're doing, I don't think Tom's far off. I think you guys have a great opportunity to sit, kind of near the top middle of the pack. And to be honest, like, if somebody says you're going to be top 10, that's a big deal, man. That's a huge compliment. Just because the pro division right now, if you 1 point in 2 matches can keep you out of Sunday, 1 point. I mean, it's just so tight. And especially with the way the layouts have been done now, where we're only getting to play maybe 5 to 7 points, there's no throwaways. There's no tester points. There's every point you got to be, damn near perfect. And you guys are like, you're doing that now. Granted, I spent a year in the semi-pro and I understand that you don't really get to play anybody until Sunday, unless you do get to pull every now and again, the Sea Dogs or Nasty or somebody, and you do get to have a grinder. But for the most part, you're waiting to Sunday to really find out if your preparation was good and if you're really ready to play. So kind of, again, so now knowing what's coming, what's in front of you, what's the plan between now and the first event of 2024?
Great question.
I mean, putting in the extra work. I mean, I told them, studying. I said it next year also. One thing I suggested because they do the Mech X, and whenever they do this Mech X, like each one of them is a team captain, and they kind of have the call plays and all that. And another thing I told them that we should do is actually each one of them like pick up a team and kind of coach, learn that aspect of the game. I mean, don't get me wrong, every one of them players are very smart, and like when I make decisions, we go over these decisions. We have the team meetings, and I mean, I've never played this level of ball, so like it's one of them things. Like I was listening to y'all's ones this morning. I can only do as well as the information I get back. I can only see y'all are in the net. We're outside the net, 100%, right? So a lot of it is like you give me that feedback, and that's where I can, adjust where I need to adjust and all that. So I mean, during the off season, I believe a lot of it is they're gonna still put in the work. I mean, right now, I told them like, hey, y'all, they actually this past weekend they had a Mech X, so every one of them played this past Sunday.
Do you think now, though, that the stuff that really, and you hit on this kind of when I asked the question, is the mental stuff. It's the studying, right? Like physically, they're all really, really good. Like what they do with their guns, how they navigate around the field, they're all really good. Now it's the 6 inches between the ears, right?
100%. And that's, it's the next level stuff, right? It's kind of like when like Ryan when y'all were talking about when Ryan made the move, he was like, well, I didn't actually even, but Ryan's been around the game for so long that when he saw, now, did it work out great? No, but, and cause I was helping by, I'll help Rich, and he helps me with scouting, and I, help on the sidelines. Anyways, they were playing the Heroines, and Jinfolk would go all the way to what we call Japan, which was that same move. And I'm like, she lived there for 3 minutes and didn't even affect the game because, like, we're in the pocket. Now, you have to know and you have to respect, like, but, you know, once you figure out where she is, you can get, I mean, I was like, that bunker's not that scary as long as you know someone's right there, you know. And, but, like you know, it was having that information. So.
Right. Not hitting the panic button just because they own a specific prop. And that's key. And you'll see this, and Ryan already knows this, but, you know, in the professional division, if once you realize, and it's the same in the semi-pro division, right? If they end up making a key spot, right, you've got to know what to do, when to do it. If A, then B, paintball, and just don't panic. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Just respond accordingly based off your position and asset.
Right.
So what about moves? Any player acquisitions? You going to change the roster at all? Going to roll with what you got?
No, I mean, from everything I've talked to, I mean, like I said, I'm not there on the day-to-day. I mean, me and Johnny's kind of like the owner, you know, the Luke Hauser owner, but I mean, that's the one I talk to on the day-to-day. Like, you know, he called me the other day and he's like, we're still good for next year. And I was like, yes, you know, I've had a couple calls, but I was like, look, I own a restaurant back home. I have a couple businesses, so they understand my life is very hectic. And, you know, actually this year it was good because everything was webcast, but I didn't actually get to go to Philly.
Right.
But I was on the webcast and literally going back and forth with JD, Johnny, and Rich, like saying, hey, this went here, you know. Luckily that event, like, I could see everything. In the past it wasn't that way, but I got lucky and, you know, literally was on the phone with them like, hey, this and this. So
yeah.
Well, I also understand you're from Louisiana?
I am North Louisiana.
North Louisiana? Well, you're
Freeport.
going to have to come down and visit us at LAX.
Oh yeah,
you know,
sure.
Notorious comes over. Let's see if we can't get PB Fit to come over and join us. And let me tell you, I'd love to get you and my field owner, Drew Bankston, together since you both love to cook.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, for sure.
some good. I'm already drooling thinking about it. Of course, people don't know this. I'm in the middle of a 72-hour fast, and this is why I keep making jokes about hunger. But shouldn't have brought up the restaurant. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off topic, Ryan. Sorry.
I'm not angry at you.
I'm excited, Casey. I'm excited to see what you guys do. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
No, for sure. No, like I said, we plan on keeping the core. Everybody's coming back, from my understanding, and like I said, each guy actually is you know, I don't know, y'all are friends with Scott Stewart, but like he's even been making posts about like trying to help a younger divisional team coaching, and you know, and that, you know, but that it's just that extra edge of like, if you're not playing, I mean, because a lot of times they have USXBLs and different things. Well, they can't practice those weekends because the field's tied up. But like I told them, on those times, that's when you can offer to coach, and you can be in that side of the game, and you're still working the game, so, and learning.
Yeah, they're working on the things that in the space they're about to move into is the most important piece, right? It's the thought process and understanding the game more thoroughly. The other thing that's great, and SK brought this up on the show last week, the understanding what a coach is dealing with, you know, when they're trying to put something together in 25 to 35 seconds is critical. Like players having a better understanding of how we devolve through information, and how we delineate through the process of how we're going to make plays, what we're looking for off the box, you know, all of those things that we have to do. And again, in just fractions of seconds, be able to look up, and especially in the pro division, the guys don't touch the box till 1 second.
Right.
That's really when they touch the box. So, you know, you're waiting, and literally you're trying to watch before really the guy touches, you know, where is he standing before the 1 second? Before he was maybe one body over, now he's over here, and he only goes to these two spaces. You know what I mean? Like, it's really much more difficult than it was, you know, in the semi-pro, just because those guys will stand on the box at 3 to 5 seconds.
Right.
You get into the pro division, they don't do that. Like, they will stand and kind of mix around, and then literally at 1 second, they all kind of shift around and touch the box. And makes it much more difficult to audible things. And, we're going to have Ryan Brand on in a couple weeks. He's going to talk a little bit about that, but they need to have a better understanding of how difficult what we're trying to do for them is, and take some of that responsibility on themselves. And I know that your players do. They stand off and look downfield. They see where the guys are lined up. They have a pretty good idea of what's happening even before we audible, right?
Right. Well, I mean, this last one, like, luckily you could actually some you can't look straight down and actually see the start box.
Can't see your opponent.
Right.
So I mean, really, Trenton, like, I'm like, hey, look, you're the audible. Like, if I'll yell, but sometimes us yelling at 3 seconds, I don't want to throw them off anything of like, hey. So I was like, if you see something, you are the audible. I mean, he was like our money guy. So I was like, you are the audible. You call whatever right there. Right. I mean, we didn't. I mean, I'm sure y'all watched our film. We didn't vary from our play. I mean, we pretty much did the arrow like y'all what y'all were saying. Pretty much. The only every once in a while we go wide on Dorito side, but not very often. We were shooting people. So
well, and you're blessed. I mean, you didn't really have to do that.
No.
If you're in a position where you're shooting 2 guys off the break every game, why you don't have to risk anybody, right?
I'd much rather play 5-on-3 every point than
right.
100%. For sure. Well, anything else you want to share with us?
No. I mean,
all right. Well, I'm
a man of many.
I'm excited. Words. It's been it's a crazy week since I've been back, just with life. But I mean, I'm excited for next year. I've already been talking to Johnny and JD and Sarah, and already planning for Vegas, and just getting a lot of the behind the scenes of it's just not just coaching, it's managing, and I have business. I've had businesses, so it's a lot of the stuff. I'm like, hey, why don't we? I always try to make everything just a little bit easier. Whether it be the pit staff. I mean, because that's one thing. If it makes my job easier, like let's fine tune little things, and so that's one thing I've been trying to have a meeting with them, and also like players, like, hey, what can we do going on for the next event or going on to the next season to make our job that much easier, something that we don't have to think about, when we get these events.
Anytime you can create an efficiency, like a great example would be pit control. Anytime you have an efficiency within the pit and you have a calm demeanor and everything's flowing in the way it's supposed to, a lot of people overlook pit control, and that's a huge mistake. Huge mistake, especially for coaches.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you get chaos, so that was like this year or World Cup for Vibe. In the past, we had boyfriends and everybody else in there, and it was like chaotic. And I was like, I told them, I was like, look, I will come to every Vibe match, but we're not going to have no boyfriends on there, boyfriends, girlfriends, whoever. I said, this is what's going to happen. We have a pit crew. This is the pit crew. Unless your boyfriend's about to run some pods, they're not, and it was nothing personal. But in the past, like, I helped in Chicago, and there was there was just a lot more chaos, too many people. I mean, I was like, we should never have to use a timeout for air when there's 10 girls, and I was like, and 10 guns. I was like, that's crazy, So it was one of those type things of like, okay, look, let's simplify things. And
yeah, man, I walked into that pit in Philly last year, right before we were about to play, and I think there were 27 people in the Vibe pit. And Justin, who's from here in Oklahoma, he was like, hey, man, you should come down and like help out every now and again. And I was like, there's no way I'm getting involved in any of that. Right. There are way too many voices in that pit.
Everybody's trying to help, but when there's, I mean, it's kind of like when there's too many people in the kitchen, it's
too many voices.
So
someone's going to get burned.
That is one thing I will definitely say that helped a lot, as far as for them. It was like we kind of went to a simple structure as far as the pit side of like, hey, this person and I, with 10 girls that helped, we paired each girl with another person. Each person had a pair, and you're responsible for them. Every girl's responsible for their own air. Like, I don't, not going to use a timeout for air. You get your own air and then come talk to the coach or whatever. So
Let's take a look at your stat sheet.
did you put it up?
I'm
Yeah.
about to. Bam.
Okay.
Watch out.
All right. Tell us what's going on here.
All right. So what's that? Killers and demo.
Yep.
So this is actually y'all, the Hurricanes. I used Bunkerfest. One of the guys gave me this.
I thought it looked familiar.
Yeah, y'all did I think y'all did a playbook or someone gave me a sample of this. Now I was using SK because Johnny and SK are so SK coached them at a WC last year. So him and Johnny kind of got close. And so they actually, I mean, I will say they text pretty often, during the events and ask about different things. So, I mean, they have a good relationship. So I like his, but to me, I read left to right, not up and down. So I liked how y'all's did, and I just I doubled the work, but I have it on two different sheets for each team. But luckily I have me and another guy kind of does it. So I'll get one side, he gets the other side, and then I'll combine them together and put them
Perfect.
side by side.
So a check mark means they went to a space.
Check mark means they went to the space. D meant they are diving to that. Like on the one where the Killers demo, IM meant they went in front of the money. If it doesn't have anything, they probably went behind the money.
Tracking routes. So.
Tracking, yeah. So I added a map to y'all's because they went a crazy way or something like that. You can actually draw it out.
Yeah. We actually have that in our book. It's just on a
different sheet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so this, I try to make it easy because there's two other guys that helped us at World Cup. So I just try to make everything, if they grab this sheet, where they could kind of understand it.
Perfect.
And then
X, they died on the break.
X, they died off break. The 2, it's not on that, but there's a couple of them that have a mark and then a 2. That means that they secondary filled to that within like the first 15 seconds.
Smart. Yeah. So I have the bottom in what you sent me. I see that in the bottom sheet. I was going to ask about that.
Yeah.
So if there's a check mark and then a 2 next to it, they secondary to that spot.
Yes.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
And then down lows is win losses, obviously. And then so
you don't track time.
W for wizard. What is that?
So they're shooting wizard to us is a cross. So
I knew it. That's ours.
Okay. Yeah.
Everybody's ours was the same.
Yeah.
And yes, you should. This should have an option where you can track time of the point, right? What time the point started, what time it ended. The point was won, whether it was a win or a loss.
So down low there is a couple times, but yeah, they didn't do it every time. So
I would tell you when you in the next place you're going to, time is going to be really important.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
that is one thing. Slowing the game down, and but I will say we definitely that's one thing that I told them, we can win fast points, but which is good, but like in the pro division, time is everything. It's the clock management, not when we're 5 alive and there's 2 guys not running down and stabbing the last 2 guys, you just let them. We just eat up those couple minutes, but don't lose, So yeah,
let them make a mistake or tie.
So that is one thing we're definitely going to work on during the off season. I mean, yes, we did mercy a lot of people, which is great, but on the other side, in pro division, it can go the opposite side if you leave too much time on that clock, and you get a lot more closer games. So
right,
absolutely,
yeah, smart. I like this.
Yep,
I like it. But no,
Yeah, I like
I've
it too.
I've known Ryan. That's why I remember Ryan. I remember going all the way to MAO when he was coaching Texas Storm. That's how back in the
day.
Yeah. Remember
Why,
that?
Love it.
why are you aging me?
No, I mean, I was just the other day or yesterday, I was like thinking, I was like, man, I mean, obviously I played this AES series back in the day, but then I was like, man, I traveled all the way to MAO, and I was like, remember when you were coaching Texas Storm?
We went to MAO a couple of times. I don't remember what year that was. Did we do well?
Yes, you did. That was the year.
Okay,
Yeah,
2012.
yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah.
12. Yeah.
Yeah, 2012. That was a good year for us. Yeah, man. I was telling Michael before you came on the show. I think we were talking about it last week, but I told him, I was like, man, I've known him a really long time. Really sweet guy. And then I said, and he's from Louisiana. And he's your neck of the, well, you're not that far south,
No,
but
I mean, it's funny. People always say that. They're like, and I'm like, man, I actually live closer to Dallas than I do, like, because actually I got family in like New Orleans and Baton Rouge area. It's like, it's a lot closer for me to go to Dallas than it is to New Orleans.
That's true. Yeah. People came in, they're like, hey, I moved to Shreveport. And I'm like, you're not near us.
No.
So enjoy that 5-hour drive. So,
Yeah.
But,
well, do you have anything
okay,
else you want to share with us about anything? You can drop sponsors. You can thank the Lucaus about how awesome they are and what an amazing facility they have. Okay, I did it for you. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, definitely that. I mean, going back to what like Tom was saying, and about like tournament style. I mean, to do what the Lucaus have actually done is pretty like remarkable in itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have 3 turf fields, and I mean, the amount of. But I mean, if you ever met JD, I mean, that JD alone is just, I mean, he, like I tell people all the time, I was like. You can't do nothing but love the guy, and I mean, just the love for the sport, and just actually he's doing a webcast right now, I believe, with Christian Smith. But I mean, just the love that they have, and I mean the family atmosphere they try to bring to each and every person to grow. And like I said, everything they do is just been awesome.
It's salt of the earth.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Like I don't really get to play very often because I am so busy. But I mean, the one thing I do love is how they do this MECX. Like whenever I do get to go play, it's normally something like that. It's like they do it like a draft type system. And it's 20 players. You'll play a point. But it's all like old school 10-minute halves. I mean, it's the coolest thing ever. So if you ever get a chance to like come check it out, like, it's fun. Like, I mean, and it's all the way from pro all the way to D5, but like your level of play will play, against each other.
Yeah, man, like my problem, I want to do one so bad, but every time they have one, it's like a week or 2 before I'm about to be gone for 3 weeks, or I have just come home from 3 weekends away.
Normally, I think they're normally how they have it structured is like because it's bring your own paint. So what a lot of times they'll do is like, let's just say there's an event. Well, then like right after that event will be the MECX, because then everybody can shoot their leftover paint and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I have this girl who sleeps in the same bed as me who doesn't appreciate that kind of time.
One of those too.
That's why I only played one this year, is all I can say, because my wife's like, and then that is the one thing. Do y'all know, are we going back to 2 weeks?
We forgot to ask Tom.
I know. I didn't. About that.
I actually didn't forget, but we were so crammed on time, and you'd been sitting for 30 minutes kind of waiting for us to bring you in. And so I actually cut 3 questions out of things I wanted to ask him. But what it means is we're just going to have to get Jason on the show next week, and we'll just have to ask him.
We'll ask him there.
So, yeah, I mean, because that was one thing. Because I asked Johnny, he's like, well, I don't know. He's like, I know a lot of, speculation was. And I was like, well, it is. I was like, but, it goes back to a time thing, right?
Well, and I've heard the speculation both ways at this point. I've
Yep.
heard no, we're going to stay at 1 week, and I've heard, but the reality is nobody knows, right? It's all this like ambiguous conversation at this point with
100%.
just people throwing around conjecture.
Yeah.
Like there's two people that would know the answer to that question.
And
One
we
of them just left the show, right?
That's right.
One of them just left the show, and the other one we'll try to get on next week. I tried to have him on last week, but unfortunately, it didn't work out.
One of them only lives an hour from me, so I'm going to see if I can't track it down sooner.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well,
There you
for
go.
sure.
Well, man, thank you so much for taking the time tonight to visit with us. Do you have something else?
No, for sure. I was
Okay.
going to say, appreciate y'all.
Casey, it was a
Yeah, man.
pleasure meeting you virtually, and I look forward to, working with you and seeing you, a lot more of you in the upcoming season. Congratulations to Paintball Fit.
100%. Thank you. I appreciate it. Let me know about that coaches clinic, whatever y'all decide. So,
Well, so it's gonna happen. We just got to finish putting all the pieces together, but more than likely in Texas.
Okay.
The Dallas event will be the first one, and then we're going to do one more somewhere, and then we'll do one in Dreux,
cool.
just south of France there at the end of the year. So we'll kind of see how all of it sort of works. But Mike and I have a lot of work to do to put the curriculum together and those kind of things. But we had Matt Shook, actually, that owns Edge Paintball Adventures and Frog Holler up in Wichita, Kansas, reached out to me on the Facebook page and was like, hey, man, you guys should do a coaches clinic. And Mike and I had already talked about wanting to put out some curriculum and do some things to help young coaches develop a good plan for what they can do off season, what kind of attitude and player types to be on the lookout for, what your leader needs to look like, just kind of the macro stuff, and then dig down and drill down into the real micro stuff, right? The things that we do drill wise, if a player is struggling with this, but again, not just for the player, but also on the team level, how do we then push that drill that we need for that one player to also benefit the team, right? Where it's not just this one. Yeah. So it's going to happen. We just got to put all the pieces together, and I'm incredibly excited about it. I think it's something that I wish I would have had when I was younger. And I kind of did. It was just in a really abusive way from the older guys who I was playing with. They were my coaches. Right. They were my mentors. And now, and it's so neat too, to see guys like Todd Adamson, doing what he's talking about, hopefully that works out. Cause I think what happens in paintball is when the older guard kind of goes away, it leaves a void, right? There's this information void that kind of goes away with them. And then it takes that group of players who come up behind them. Their own, right? And hopefully they'll share those with us. Like, the more everybody gets better, the better we'll get, because we have to, right? In order to stay ahead and stay up. If everybody gets better, I got to get better, right? I got to continue to learn. I got to continue to be a student. So that's what we're hopeful that this will kind of expand into, is that, we'll have like a 101 course and then a 202 and 303 and so on and so forth.
Nice.
So we get to a point where those guys are teaching us a lot,
Right. Yep.
So, which would be exciting.
For sure. All right. Well, I appreciate it.
Take
Thank
care,
you, buddy.
Casey.
Have a great night. Hey, have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Safe
Happy
travels
Thanksgiving.
if you are traveling.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
buddy.
you. Bye.
See you,
Thank
buddy.
you.
Bye.
Well, Ryan, this is obviously our longest show.
Yeah. I thought it would be. Tom gets a little long-winded, but we need the information he's sharing, so it's important. And Casey, again, I kind of told you before, last week, he's such a sweet guy. So I didn't want to cut any of his time out. It just kind of worked out, But it's a lot of information in this episode, so hopefully people won't get bored and go away.
That's right. Well, I look forward to getting to know Casey over the next season. He seems like my speed, so I'm looking forward to it. Speaking of the show in the future, we're going to try and get, I believe we've already got some booked, but we're going to get Dave Baines on here. We're going to talk about that resurgence of impact at World Cup. We're going to get Ryan Brand on here. We're going to pick his brain. One of the best coaches in the league. We've got to have Joey Blute. Obviously Dan Lee from NYX, we got to get him on here, maybe get him on here with Rich, but then maybe Dan wouldn't have a chance to talk if Rich is on there. So maybe we do that separately. And yes, that was a poke at Rich. He knows I'm kidding. Todd Martinez, Travis Lemansky, Shane Pastana. We can go on. We're going to get them all, and we're going to pick all their brains, and we're going to bring all of this to you, the viewer, so that you guys can get a lot of this insight and see how things work.
Absolutely. Good show, buddy.
Yeah, man.
Have a fantastic Thanksgiving, man.
And God bless you. And you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. You know what? One of the things I'm thankful for is that God put you in my life and we got to meet each other and start this friendship.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Until next week.
Yes, sir. Take care.
That is discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Fucking do this. Then do it. Do it 100%, because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
Got to be a champion, become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success.